I am here with Tom. We are talking about Strafe. This game will literally melt your face off. I know because I've seen videos, and that's what happens. Tell us a little bit about Strafe and what you guys are delivering.
Strafe is a throwback shooter to the 90s, and it takes procedural and roguelike elements and mixes it with Quake.
I like all of those elements. How do you sort of make sure that all of those things are properly taken care of in their respective genres?
Well, classic shooters, they were known for their amazing level design, and if you go truly procedural, where it's all just voxels or boxes, it's really hard to make sure there's a good flow. So we author rooms, we make sure that there's a really good flow and verticality and multiple paths through everything, and then we just, within that, randomized doorways, geometry, walls, we just mess all around with it and hopefully create a great experience.
So what's going to separate this experience, from other games out there that are sort of similar in style but aren't quite as awesome as Strafe?
Thanks. The things that set Strafe apart is we have completely persistent gore and blood. So when you kill an enemy, probably 10 gallons of blood will spray out of their face. It'll drip off ceilings, stream down walls. It's persistent, so even though the levels are procedural and they're always changing, you will actually know where you've been through the breadcrumb trail of corpses that you leave behind. And you can actually, when you finish a level, still walk all the way back to the beginning and see every bullet hole, every shell, every corpse that just kind of tells that story.
So making a game that is rated E for everyone, how difficult is it? Now, tell me a little bit about some of the challenges in creating a world that you can, in fact, run back through, check out all the damage, make sure everything is still there, and there's blood everywhere, and people are crying, and there's tears, and babies or infants are sad on the floor.
It's, it's definitely a challenge, but we do a lot to make sure that performance is still incredibly fast. We aren't happy with anything under 60 frames a second, and double that, of course, is way better. So even though the game looks simple, it's super. There's a lot of physics going on. We're doing a lot for ragdolls, so that it's not just a simple dimp enemy when you kill them, but there's a lot of exploding corpses. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. There's secrets popping out, monster closets. We just try to make the most kinetic action possible.
Monster closets?
Monster closets.
Do monsters come out of the closet in this game?
Yes. Being completely randomized, it's never an experience where you know what's coming up. As you memorize the systems of a game, much like a game like Spelunky, you'll be able to figure out how to approach every situation, but every time you load up, every time you die, you're thrown into a new set of circumstances. So.
You had me at Spelunky. Anytime anybody mentions Spelunky, it knows right the way to my heart. So obviously having all of this, this physics and this gore present throughout the gameplay experience, how creative can we get with our characters? Is it just going to be all kinds of crazy weapons and guns and ammo and fisticuffs?
So when you start the game, you just choose between a shotgun, a machine gun, and a railgun, and that is the gun that you will persist throughout the whole game. It's not the only gun you have access to. There's over 33 different types of, if you have the shotgun, you have 4 different primaries, 4 different secondaries, but that drastically change the style of the gun. And within that, you also have perks that'll up the fire damage, up the accuracy, the capacity, and the rate of fire. And even outside of that, we have a guns as power-up system. So you're running through a ship, you find a plasma rifle on the ground, you can pick it up, exhaust the plasma within it. Then when you're out, it switches firing modes where you rip a panel off the side and you throw it and it explodes. So we want to, instead of times where you would collect a whole bunch of weapons and ammo and kind of keep them in your back pocket for a boss that might never come or might never use it, we try to make it like a John Woo film where you're constantly picking things up, using it, emptying it, throwing it, making it a weapon. And even our exploding barrels, instead of just shooting them and letting them blow up, you can, but you can also pick them up and use them as grenades, throwing them at enemies.
Now, is there going to be some sort of story as to why all of this bloodshed and gore is happening around us, or is it just go into this world and blow stuff up?
John Carmack has this amazing quote from the mid-90s that is, story in video games are like storylines in porno. It's expected to be there, but it's not that important. Clearly that's changed in time, but since we're making a throwback, we decided let's keep story light. The premise is there. When you play the tutorial, it's an FMV tutorial mixed with some gameplay. So all the story is told through the tutorial. None of it's in the game. So when you boot up Strafe, you're within the game, no load times between levels or to start a level or to end a level. Everything is just straight into the game. You can stream from the first moment you start to the end of the game. And when you die, you just jump right back in. So it's all about through the environment, through what you're killing and where you're going. We tell a vague story, but we don't want to bog you down with audio logs. We don't want to bog you down with any type of text logs or anything like that.
Now, the game came out of a successful Kickstarter. Did you guys get to add anything that you thought you might not be able to put into the game after the Kickstarter was all done?
A ton of stuff. Like, we were hoping initially after we did the Kickstarter, it was in early 2015, and as we started building it, we had all these ideas and all these, the community was very active in telling us what they wanted out of it. So weighing the pros and cons and the things we'd like to see in the game, because we don't want to make a bunch of sequels. We want to make the best game we can and then move on from that. So with Strafe, we've really expanded. Like, there's over 20 enemy types, all having different AI, ranged melee attacks, like switching modes. We have, we went from around 15 weapons to like 33 different types, and it's and just making sure it seems very simple and accessible, but as you play, you start realizing it's this crazy playground of death where there's all these systems that'll play off each other and all these things to discover.
For every $1,000 donation, 1 ounce of blood will be added to character bloodshed. That's the kind of thing I look forward to.
We actually promise to donate 100% of the blood we receive to charity.
Now, you guys are partnered with Devolver Digital, which is one of my favorite people just in the whole gaming world and just the world itself. How did you guys partner up with Devolver?
We met Devolver through the last year of development. After our Kickstarter, we started meeting a lot of people, and for us, it was a decision of we wanted to work with them or self-publish. So when we met with Devolver and we saw just how good they were to their developers and how good of people they were, it became very obvious that we just fit in too well. So we tried to make it happen, and we're lucky.
Tell me a little bit about your background as well, because this is the first game you've worked on?
Yeah, I come from the background of actually directing videos. So I'm a PA from my set, working on music videos and commercials. I found out he was a programmer, and a damn fine one at that. So April 2014, I just asked him, you want to start making a game? Because I come from video, but since middle school, I was modding different levels for Quake, Half-Life, all the way up to about Half-Life 2 or Doom 3. And I was just, making maps for my friends and I. So when I realized that we can at least make a game that looks 20 years old pretty good, we said, let's do that for fun, and it became our job.
Well, you had me at Spelunky, like I said, but I love bloodshed, I love gore, and I love making things explode, and I get to do all of that in Strafe.
Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.